This is the Horse Radio Network. This is episode 392 of Horse Tip Daily, a different horse tip, a different equine topic, a different equestrian expert every day. Horse Tip Daily brings the world of equine knowledge to you one day at a time. Today's tip is sponsored by Equestrian Collections. Visit them at equestriancollections.com. Hi, everybody. Glenn the Geek back with you from Lexington, Kentucky, and you're listening to Horse Tip Daily. Well, today we have back with us Heather Blitz, so we haven't had her on in a while, actually, and this is her latest tip from the Dressage radio show. Heather is a professional dressage rider, now living in Florida, and has done many tips with us. You can find all of her tips by going back to Horse Tip Daily and using the drop-down menu on the left side of the page. Just look for Heather Blitz, and there you can listen to all of her tips right there in a row. This is Heather's tip from episode 88 of the Dressage Radio Show. If you'd like to listen to the whole show, go to dressageradio.com, and we're going to be back with Heather's tip, along with Chris Stafford hosting the show, right after this word from Equestrian Collections. For over a year now, we've been telling you about all the cool things happening at Equestrian Collections and the variety and selection of products they have at fantastic prices. But today, we want to talk to you a little bit about their social networking and what a community they have built on Facebook. If you go to Facebook and search for Equestrian Collections, you're going to find that over 20,000 fans are now following Equestrian Collections on Facebook. And the reason is they have a dynamic community built over there. You know, on most store sites, most company sites on Facebook will just promote product and things like that. That's not what happens on Equestrian Collections. Yeah, there's a little bit of that, but mostly it's the community sharing pictures, talking about stories, asking questions of each other. It's an active, vibrant community, like a little forum right there on Facebook. Search for Equestrian Collections on Facebook or stop over to equestriancollections.com for all of your horse and rider needs.
Heather, you mentioned earlier in the show that your tip this week was going to be about balance. Balance is a priority.
Right, and it's a thing that I start with in my training system, and the way I want the horses to be developed is to really focus before I really have very much concern about the horse's frame, like where the neck is or where the hind legs are. But to think instead, the first thing I want to instill in my horses is their awareness of their own balance in their body. And I'm sure every rider out there in this really challenging sport of dressage thinks about it at one point or another, but I am really steadfast and just a real stickler on that. That's always going to be priority in what I want my horses to be doing in every moment. That has to be, just like the baseline layer. That's the thing that has to be really in place before I can assume that anything else is going to be, worth tending to, or, that if I do tend to it, it's not going to distract whatever I'm talking about. Won't distract the horse from knowing ultimately where their balance is all the time. Horses being by nature, of course, prey animals, they can't help but have a natural instinct to, the thing that can stress them out the most or make them nervous or tense is really if they don't feel like they are balanced. I mean, if a horse falls down during being chased by something, then they would be the one to, not survive. So they have a real innate fear of not being in balance, and I think that can cause tension in their body and oftentimes in the neck that, we then try to deal with. And then because the neck is attached to our hands, and as humans, our hands are our biggest tools for what we get done in our lives, it's really easy to start dealing with tension problems rather than, or the tension of symptoms, rather than staying focused on what the cause is. And I think in so many cases it has so much or everything to do with the horse being confident with where their balance is. And, self-carriage is a word that gets put out there a lot, but if you really stop and think about it, how many times do you follow through completely on that concept of is your horse in self-carriage? Or if you have to have a fair amount of contact in the rein, do you still think about if the horse has self-carriage? So whenever you've got a lot of contact in your rein, a good thing to imagine as far as checking in whether you have self-carriage or not, or if the horse is in balance, is if you imagine those reins breaking, if they weren't very substantial reins, and all of a sudden, by surprise, those reins broke. If you get the sense that your horse would really change quite a bit, either by speeding up or losing balance or slowing down or, really becoming hollow, then there was a problem with the kind of, the priorities then of what was happening in the first place. So when the horse is in self-carriage, then I think the contact and the frame and the throughness and all that can stay pretty independent things, all based on the fact that the horse is in balance. And, of course, I have a way to, talk about how to get your horse in balance, and, maybe that can be on another tip that I talk about how to get that balance. But just to start with for this tip is that's got to stay priority to keep addressing causes of a lot of the things that riders focus on rather than the symptoms that they're trying to fix.
Thanks again to Heather and Chris. And as I said, you can find that tip in episode number 88 of the Dressage Radio Show, found at dressageradio.com. And you can find all of our different shows at horseradionetwork.com and take a listen to the Tack and Habit Show to learn all about, it's a fun show about products that we do every week. We'll be back again tomorrow with another new expert and a different horse tip. Until then, stay safe, everyone.
The Horse Radio Network and the Horse Radio Network hosts are not responsible for statements of guests or their opinions. Use your own judgment when listening to the tips provided by the experts on Horse Tip Daily.